What's up, guys? So I got another video in the Skate for Life project stuff, and this one's actually related to shin splints. I've actually talked to a couple different people about having issues with shin splints and making their skating really painful and irritating. And I wanted to actually show you guys a couple different methods to actually improve the problem that comes with this. There's also another name for shin splints called Anterior Tibialis stress syndrome, I believe it is, FTSS. And a lot of times shin splints occur when we have a lot more strength through the calf and all the attachments to the Achilles, whereas the front, the shin, the anterior tibialis, the medial tibialis are a little bit lacking. Mainly it's medial tibialis, I should say posterior tibialis. Mainly it's the posterior tibialis that creates the majority of this issue. So I'm going to show you guys a couple ways to treat this. And a couple exercises to help you guys recover from the shin splints. Now, the first thing you'll need is a pair of lacrosse balls and then a very simple blue band. Now, we're going to go through how to diffuse the tissue, the front of the shin, the the posterior tibialis, and then go into exercises to help strengthen and improve the strength relationship between all the musculature of the calf. Now, shin splints can typically be described as a general radiating pain you'll get throughout the lower leg. And when this occurs, it may be very, very mild at first, but it'll continue to get worse and worse. And for those of you that street skate and you're always on your board pushing, this can be typically more common for you guys than for park skaters and stuff like that. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I cannot legally diagnose anything. I'm not a doctor. So when I say this, make sure that you're diagnosed with this first before you actually assume that it's shin splints. But normally just taking care of the calves, if we have some pain down in this region, it will handle a lot of the issues that come along with it, unless you have like stress fractures or incomplete fractures where a break doesn't go all the way through the bone. Basically, to start off with, I like to diffuse tissue, stretch the calves, stretch the Achilles, stretch the shins, and then we go into strengthening as we go along. So the first thing we're going to do is diffuse the posterior tibialis, diffuse the anterior tibialis. Look at me, I'm getting fancy today. I'm actually using more than one camera angle. So we have the anterior tibialis and we have the posterior tibialis that can be really big issues. And so the anterior tibialis runs across the front of the shin bone. So my shin bone's here, and then the anterior tibialis is this muscle that exposes itself when I try to lift my toe towards my knee. And this one pulls in opposition to the calf. Now, there's another muscle that sits behind the shin bone. This one's a little bit tougher to get to, but I'll show you guys how to do that. That one's a posterior tibialis because the shin bone is the tibialis, or the tibia. And so when I'm trying to clean up this area very simply, and I've done a couple videos where we touched on this before, is I'm going to take a lacrosse ball and I'm just going to kind of kneel on it and dig into that area and try to find any areas that are really tender or really sensitive as I run up and down. And I may move the foot up and down a little bit too, or left and right, just to see if anything shows itself. And sometimes it may be a little bit higher, sometimes it may be a little bit lower. And if nothing shows itself at all, then we may be looking primarily at the posterior tibialis for this irritation. When you do this, spend a couple minutes on it. If it's tender, stick it in that most tender spot and let it just sit there until a lot of that dissipates, okay? So then when we get into the posterior tibialis, it's a little bit trickier. So what you have to do is pinch that same spot. You'll kind of sit like this. You'll pinch that spot that you were with the anterior tibialis and put it underneath the shin bone a little bit, like I'm trying to drive it underneath. And then I'm going to take my thumb and go on the other side of that shin bone and push it down. Now, for those of you that may find this difficult, with the second lacrosse ball, we can actually take the second lacrosse ball and drive it down and pinch it like we're sandwiching behind the shin bone, and then moving that foot up and down, we may find hot spots that are really aggravated, and really trying to find any and all those tender areas and working those out. Now this diffuses the tissue. This actually helps it release and return to a little bit more of a normal length. And this is really important. So from here, diffusing this makes it easier to go into stretching out the calves. I prefer tissue work first, stretching second when I'm just trying to get release. And then if I need to go into strengthening, I'll actually do my strengthening exercises after I do my diffusion. So from here, I'm going to go into stretching out the calves, which we have the general runner stretch, where I'll sit back, and I did in the stretching video, and I'll try to push that Achilles, or that heel towards the floor to stretch out the Achilles. If some of your irritation is in the anterior tibialis here, then I'm actually going to very simply put my toes flat on the ground, and then I'm going to sit onto my heels to allow the front of the shins, the anterior tibialis, to stretch out. And I'll sit here for about 15 seconds, and then I'll kind of let it relax for another 15 seconds. And I'll alternate about 3 or 4 times to go ahead and do so. This may make a big difference for a lot of you that have this issue. Now for strengthening exercises, we have a couple different ones we can do. I'm going to take my shoes off because one of them is a lot easier to do without shoes on. But basically, when you're seated, what you'll try to do is basically write out the alphabet in the air with your foot. C, D, E, F. And this is actually pretty common amongst rehabilitation for ankles and knees, to actually have to move everything through a range of motion and utilizing all directions. And so writing the alphabet helps with that. A couple sets, each foot and so on. So luckily I have this bike here where I can just kind of sit down and do this with. But I just take this mini band and I wrap it so it's secured. I'll get some tension on it, and then I'm gonna let it pull it down, keeping everything in place, and then I'm just gonna lift the foot up as much as I can. And I've actually posted this exercise on Instagram videos. Now we can do it with the leg straight, and then we can also do it with the knee bent. And so the leg straight version, about 20 to 25 repetitions, 3 times, and then the bent version, same thing, 20 to 25 repetitions. Make sure it's in a position where it won't fall off. Like I'll do this so it doesn't fall off my foot, but 20 to 25 repetitions. And you'll feel where that stabilization in that activity through the anterior and posterior tibialis that counter or stabilize the ankle in relation to the calf, the gastrocnemius, soleus, Achilles, and make a big difference to improving that muscular balance. Much like I said in the video talking about stretching, our muscular balance really dictates a lot of components. So if we have certain muscles that are stronger, certain muscles that are shorter, certain muscles that are longer, or whatever, that this can actually create a different manner of function through our joint systems. And so keeping everything as balanced as possible is really important. This is why I do the skate strength series and stuff like that, is to start to help you guys have tools to use and resources to use for skaters to develop your fundamental strength and mobility, so you can continue to learn with your body in a consistent environment rather than it changing too much because you're skating all the time and doing only one movement or repetitive movements in one direction. And so we can continue to have more broad range learning and being able to adapt and create new tricks with our bodies being in the same position and being consistent. When we have these muscular imbalances and our body changes position naturally, when we go to do tricks, they won't be done in the same manner. So the nervous system will have to relearn and relearn and relearn, and it'll actually affect your long-term learning for your skateboarding. And so make sure you take care of your health, take care of your body, and you'll be able to skate longer and should be able to learn better as you go along.